I need to set him up for success.
Mm-hmm.
If I want him to be my knight in shining armor, I need to tell him what that recipe looks like for me. And vice versa for him. If he wants me to be that hot lover that, just adores and respects him, he needs to give me the recipe. Because otherwise we just get busy. We're busy. And it's not that anyone meant to fall into that pattern. It's just that life throws a ton of crap your way and you just get stuck in mode. And especially as moms, we just take on so much. And a lot of it is stuff we don't even need to take on, but we're just so used to taking it. So it's like, oh, okay, I got it. And at the end of the day, we're just like, I'm done. And you coming on to me is not my form of relaxing. I just want to go to sleep.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life and marriage? Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood podcast. This episode, we have a fun guest whose name is Mitch Blackford, and I connected with her so well as soon as I met her, and I'm so excited to dive into the topic that we have for you today because she is a coach for moms, and so she is very, very familiar with what happens when we transition from woman, wife / partner to mom and what it does to marriages. Okay, so we're going to be diving into the topic of how to go from disconnected to intimate, because there's something about motherhood that leaves us feeling like intimacy is the last thing we want to do because we are touched out, we are talked out, we are everything fill in the blanked out. And so a lot of times we kind of put our marriage on the back burner. And if that's you, totally normal. And I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk all about it. So thank you so much for being a part of the show, Mitch. Can you please introduce yourself? Let us know how many kids you have and what led you to become a coach for moms.
Yeah, of course. Well, thanks for having me here. And yes, likewise, totally connected. And we're just so right on the same page. It's awesome. I'm like, yes, she knows the stuff. So it always feels good, It's like mission-oriented women. So, like you said, my name is Mitch and I am married. I have an amazing husband. His name is Andrew, and we have 2 girls together. Their names are Zaya and Eja. Zaya just turned 7 this last month, and Eja is 5 3/4, because that's very important. I can't leave that out. So they're about 15 months apart. And I had them a little later in life. They're actually in vitro. We got married. I was I was in my 30s when we got married. We tried for a few years. And when you're in your 30s and you get married, you don't have that long to let's just keep trying. Let's just keep trying. That clock is on the countdown. You only have so many years. And so we got to that point where we started doing all of the fertility tests. We, just started trying everything until we finally just ended up doing in vitro. And so the first one didn't take, the second one was my oldest, and then the third one was Eja. So they're 15 months apart, basically, because I turned 41 11 days after Zaya was born. And I told the doctor, I'm like, listen, I want 2. And if I wait too long, it ain't going to happen. What's the soonest I can get in? And he said, wait 6 months. And I'm like, okay. So 6 months on the day, I was like, what's up? Let's do this. And so it was like just being pregnant for 2.5 years and breastfeeding for,
No big deal.
It was a long time. Yeah, no big deal. Totally changed my life. I mean, I'd gone until 40 living my life the way I wanted to for me, or then for me and my husband, and traveling around the world, because I used to work with a company that was in travel, and they also did these big trainings. So I traveled internationally. I got to help coordinate some of the back-end logistics, and then I would also do personal coaching and training. And that just was, I mean, it just opened my heart. It was like, this is what I was made for. And I loved it. Well, let's fast forward to COVID, and that company, being in travel, went out of business. And we had just sold our house. We were moving to a new town and building. So we were in this little rental, and it was, like a 1,300 square foot, 1972, all originals, brown, kitchen's about the size of my bed, maybe. Yeah, literally just so tiny, no microwave, no disposal, no, all of the money. You're like, oh, I can make this work. We're just here for a little while. And I just remember, I was getting ready to go on a trip to Thailand, and that was in March of 2020, and just things start shutting down until finally it was like, wah. And my husband works for the railroads, and so he's considered a first responder. He still got to go to work. I, on the other hand, was now at home with this 1.5 and 2.5-year-old in this tiny little dark brown space that got no light. So it wasn't so much the space, it was just, it's dark, and all of our furniture was overcrowded and toys are everywhere because you got a 1.5 and a 2.5-year-old. And I went from being large and in charge, running these huge events, helping people transform their lives, to Andrew would come home and I'd be like, I changed 5 poopy diapers today. How about that? How about them apples, And this was as interesting as I got. And, he still got to have conversations with humans that were over the age of 5 and do things that felt productive and leave the house and come back. And so it just really wore on me until I got to this point where one day my girls, they were running around just being a little loud and obnoxious as 1.5 and 2.5-year-old, nothing bad, just being young. And I just, it was that moment. It was that moment where you break and you can't take it anymore. And I just let loose. I screamed at them. And in my head, I said, sound so loud and so scary that they think you're a monster, and they just shut up. And I did. And I thank God that they were probably too young to get what was going on, because they both just stopped and gave me these wide-eyed stares like, what happened to mommy? And in that moment, I call it my momster moment. Of course, I look at them and I'm like, oh, what have I done? I'm horrible, and then it was the snot ball cry, snot coming out, crying coming out, wiping it all up. Like, I'm so sorry. I was this horrible mother. What's happened to me? I'm the one who knows how to design my life, and I'm this horrible monster. I'm so sorry. And I realized, like, dang, if this is happening to me, I know it's got to be happening somewhere else. I've just got to this total place where I felt like I lost myself. I lost my freedom. I was just this baby feeding, poopy diaper changing, clean up after everyone, laundry person. That was literally what life came down to. I'm like, I have big dreams, and I don't feel like I can go and do any of them right now. And it almost felt hopeless, and like I was overwhelmed by everything. And like you mentioned in the intro, just overtouch, right? Just like constantly, I'm a monkey gym, whatever they call it, like a jungle gym, monkey bars and jungle gyms.
I got you.
Yeah, my youngest one, if I sat down, she was all over me. So I couldn't sit down to relax, because if I sat down, she was just all over me. And no matter, when they're really small, there's only so much you can do. And so, at the end of the night, if they weren't in bed, I would just stand. I'd stand next to the couch. Andrew would sit down. The girls would be running around, and I'd just sit there like, I'm so tired, but I can't sit down right now because I can't take any more touching than what I've got. So that's the background of what pushed me into, I've got to go out there and help other moms. And, obviously the first person I had to help was me. I had to dig myself out of this hole. And it took a little bit of time, and we finally ended up moving. COVID passed, we're in the house. And what ended up happening is, although I was working on myself, my husband and I had become really disconnected. His job got more hectic, and they have a very negative environment there. And he would bring that home. And then I started homeschooling the girls. So again, I'm home all day with these girls, and I was still meeting people. So I didn't really have a friend base to go to as well. And so between him coming home and just in this negative, foul mood, and me being stuck at home, feeling like I have no freedom and no expression, it started to create separation between us because I didn't want to be near him or have him touch me because, like, the negativity, I don't know about you, but it's a turnoff. It's a big
Oh,
turnoff for me.
1000%.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one wants to be around someone that's like, and then they're complaining and then they're just walking around. On the flip side, though, what that would do is because I was so disconnected from him, he started disconnecting from me
Mm-hmm.
because, our whatever we put out there is kind of what we get back, right? Instead of realizing, hey, this guy is in some need of some help because at work it's overwhelming, it's overpowering, and maybe if I can be that support for him, that can give him the space where he can turn around and be that support for me, right? But instead, our natural reaction is like, ugh, get away from me. I don't, I'm just going to avoid him. And it became like walking on eggshells. And then he feels like, oh, she doesn't love me and she's just, whatever. And so that really caused some not good times and that disconnection. And so that's kind of how we get into this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, that is a very common experience, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's they have a negative job or they're just overwhelmed from the pressure of now being a provider of many people, and you are busy doing whatever you're doing, whether you're working full time, when you're stay at home
Mm-hmm.
mom, like whatever it is, it's it's all very overwhelming. There's just so much more responsibility taking over your life, and romance just becomes something that's like a luxury when really
Mm-hmm.
that needs to be something that is protected, right? And
Yeah.
so what are some things that you found yourself doing as you realize, like, oh shit, like we're not headed down a good path?
Yeah. So, it's so true. I remember I was listening to something and I can't remember if it was a podcast or a book or just some random article. And they're like, usually it takes the woman about 3 years after having kids to really get back into her groove and her libido. And I grabbed onto that for a while. I was like, see, this is normal. This is normal. You're just wanting too much.
Mm-hmm.
and it happened and it happened, but I wish I would have learned the other way. So I, like anything, like I had before, dived into personal development. I'm like, okay, let's start digging deeper into relationships and marriage and really find out what's going on here. And the biggest thing for me that I did was first realizing, hey, he's actually on the same team as me. We got married because we love each other and we want to support each other and we're on the same team. Right now we're acting like we're on opposing sides and we're, sleeping with the enemy. And this is not the vision that either of us had for marriage. So I know that that's not where he wants to be. He is just feels like he's backed into a corner because I feel like I'm backed into a corner. And so we're both being very reactive instead of being proactive about, hey, let's talk this out. Let's figure this out. Okay. So then, I read some books, got into a lot of information about the differences between masculine and feminine. And holy cow, did that open my eyes because I never realized how different we truly are. And and it was funny because when I would start reading, Andrew's very auditory and I like to read. So we'd be in the car and I'm like, I'm reading this book now. And I'm reading out loud. So it was kind of my way of, you're going to be learning what I'm learning, whether you like it or not. But he was actually on board with it. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh. He was like, okay. And I would be reading these books and I would stop and I'd pause. I'd ask him when I'd read something about a guy. And I'm like, is this true? Is this really how you feel? Is this really how you think? And he'd be like, yes, yeah, that's exactly how I think and what's going on. I'm like, well, shooky. That's just
It's fascinating,
very
isn't it?
different. Yeah, it's so fascinating. And I learned the differences between a testosterone focused brain, which is what men run on, right? Testosterone gives you a lot of focus. This is why men have that hunter mentality, why they're able to zero in on one thing and just stay on that forever. And you're like, dude, get over it. Don't you see the socks on the floor, the dishes in the sink? All he's doing is sitting and watching sports or whatever XYZ you place in, but it's like he can just focus. Well, that's that testosterone. For women, estrogen based women, we have a diffuse awareness. And so everything is constantly screaming at us. Like our environment is like, imagine 50 sounds or just like 50 voices around you telling you everything that's going on. And you can't shut them off when it's chaotic. And so we see the socks, we see the dishes, we hear the kids, we do the, and it's very hard for us to shut that off and to shut down and relax. So that's something that a lot of guys don't understand about women and that women don't understand about men. It's not that men are trying to just be like, whatever, that's your job. I'm watching something, I'm busy. It's just they don't hear it and see it the way we do. That doesn't mean that you can't have a conversation about it though and say, hey, you know why I get really crabby? Because everything's yelling at me constantly and I'm overwhelmed by it. And I don't want to be this woman. I want to be that woman that you married, that we would flirt with each other and have a good time and that we looked forward to seeing each other. And like if you touched me, I wouldn't recoil because it's like, oh, I don't want to give him the wrong signal that he might get sex tonight. I want you to touch me and me just go, ah. And then if it leads to sex, cool. And this is what I'm realizing I need for you to provide for me so that I, in return, can provide the things that you need. And those are two different things. And that's okay. And that's another big thing to understand is that because his needs are here and my needs are over here, it doesn't mean one is more noble or better than the other and one is wrong and bad. It's just these are his needs, these are my needs, and we've got to make it work. So to go back to, because I know this is a big one, like sex, that's a big thing for people. Yeah, I know, because there were many times where I was like, oh my gosh, just fall asleep too tired so that he doesn't want to do anything or something, How sad is that, right? But a reality versus when we actually started understanding where we were coming from and treating each other like we were on the same team. And to this day, I mean, this has been several years that we've been going through this. I mean, even a little bit before COVID, but more so after COVID, because that year was really hard. We had to really dive in. But there are still times where we have to have the conversation where I'm like, hey, no passive aggressive. That doesn't work. I know that's your go-to because that's how you grew up and it's along a very deep groove in your brain. So it's an easy pattern to go back to, but that doesn't fly here. So we're going to sit down and we're going to chat this out. Okay. Remember, I'm on your side. I'm not trying to attack you or I'm not trying to do anything. And if I'm coming off that way, help me realize why so that I can change it. And I'll do the same for you. And I'm not going to come at you saying that you're wrong. I'm going to come at you saying, hey, this is what happened. And it seems to be this way. Am I incorrect? Oh, no, that's not what I meant at all. Great. So now can I tell you in the future, when you do this sort of behavior, it automatically kind of puts me into this mode. And I know you don't like it when I'm in that mode and vice versa. It completely changes the relationship because now you feel safe because women, our number one need is safety. You feel safe to go to your partner or your husband and actually talk about those things. And he feels safe to come to you and that know that you're going to respect what he has to say, because that's a big deal for guys, that it's not just going to be, he says it and it's like, see, you didn't listen to me. Why do I even bother? And you're just going to treat me like I'm your kid anyway. So,
That's a big one. That is a big one that
Yeah.
I see. It is a personal gripe of mine when people refer to their spouse as yet another one of their kids.
Yes.
Now, I will just throw out there that I understand that there are spouses out there that are not living up to their fullest potential
Yes.
as a man. So
Yeah.
if
And
that's your
sides.
situation, then, I'm not applying this to you because there are a variety of reasons why they are like that. But when we find a partner and we decide to commit to them and we decide to have children with them, I'm hoping that this person is ready to own themselves and not need to be mothered.
Yeah. And that's, I guess I should preface that because we kind of talk with the assuming that this is two healthy people, right? I mean,
Yes.
obviously we have our issues, but overall at our baseline, we're good, healthy people that want to strive forward together. And there are going to be times when one person, the other person, or both people are not in that space. And, you can only do so much on one side. But at the same time, someone's got to go first.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
something to look at. Like, okay, well, let's at least go first and give this thing a try and give it all I've got. Because the alternative, getting divorced or separated or whatever, that's big and nasty too. So why don't we try going through
Right.
this and see if maybe we can make it to the other side? And I've seen lots of people who were literally on the verge of this is we can't salvage this, to being loving couples again.
Yep. Yeah, I've worked with plenty of couples where they're like, well, why do I have to do all the work? I'm like, you can keep that mindset if you want, but where's it going to get you? What do
Mm-hmm.
you want at the end of the day? Do you want this marriage to have a shot at being repaired and renewed? Or do you want to hold on to your pride and say, no, fuck this. I've done too much already.
Yep.
Okay, that's a surefire way to just show yourself to the exit. Like, that's it. That's the only route that you can go. Or
Oh
stay
yeah.
miserable and bitter.
Yeah.
But the alternative is, what if you're like, okay, I am bitter, I am resentful, but I would feel worse if we end up separating, parting ways, or miserable together for the rest of our lives, and me not knowing with every fiber in my being that I did everything that I could in my ability, including
Mm-hmm.
seeking help, to turn this around. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel good when you're like, yeah, my marriage, failed and I didn't do anything about it. I kind of just let it run its course. But I can tell you that, my clients, when I've worked with them, when they've come to me bitter and resentful, and then they made that shift, they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you're right. Either way, applying these new skills, working with someone to help me through this is going to allow me to either benefit my current marriage or benefit me and my next partner. So either
Mm-hmm.
way, the skills are transferable and wonderful for your kids to witness anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you said, if you don't change and you end up getting divorced and you move on, guess what? You're going to have the exact same situation.
Oh
It's going to
yeah,
be
rinse and
peaches and
repeat.
roses in the beginning. Yeah, because in the beginning we're always excited, it's wonderful, but as soon as that familiarity wears out, where it sets in, those same patterns are going to start to pick up. And so, and it's so true. There are times like I said, even to this day, like we might have a little disagreement or a tiff or whatever. And I remember this was maybe a few months ago and we were in the car and I was just kind of brewing and stewing on something. And I was like, oh, and I was like, I'm going to challenge myself to see how fast I can change my mood. Cause I kind of put it in a little competition. I'm like, I'm going to be the one that can get over it faster. And I mean, I didn't say that out loud, but in my mind, that's kind of a little trick that I used
Yeah.
to change that sour mood because we're just sitting there and the girls are in the back and he's driving and I can just feel the tension in the car. And it's all coming from me because I'm the one that has the bad attitude at this point in time. Not to say that there haven't been moments that's his, but in that moment, the only person I have control over, well, in any moment, is myself. And so I was sitting there and I'm like, oh, this really sucks. I don't like this. I'm really mad and blah, 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 blah. Do I want to be that person that brews? Or am I going to be the winner and be like, dude, I can get over anything that fast? And so literally just took some breaths, let it all out. I'm like, is it that important? Is what I'm mad about that important? And it was not at all. Nothing life changing, no big,
It hardly ever is, right?
decisions.
It
Yeah,
hardly
it's
ever
just
is.
little stupid stuff. Like, I don't know, like he didn't follow my directions. I don't know, but something so inane. But that's what I was brewing over. And when you really stop and kind of look at it from the outside, you're like, oh man, oh, it's kind of embarrassing. So that's my little trick is every time I start to feel myself stewing, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to be the person that's causing the tension here. So I need to figure out how to change it around. And sometimes it is just a breath and getting over yourself. And sometimes it's bigger. It's you know what? This is actually showing me something that
Mhm.
I didn't realize has been bothering me. So I need to have a conversation about this so that we don't continue this pattern. And
Yes.
so I don't brush it off. Your body and your moods are there for a reason. When your body hurts, it's telling you something. It's
There are
telling you
your
you have a need that
flags.
you need to fix. Yes. just like your emotions are telling you something. So it's not just brush it off, but if I can take a couple of breaths and start to feel relief right away, it's probably something no big deal. But if I can take a couple of breaths and I'm like, no, something's not sitting right, then okay, I'm not going to stew in it, but let me just ask myself, why isn't it sitting right? Instead of going, oh, I see, I was right, it is something bad. It's like, no, why? Why is this one not sitting well with me? What am I missing? Because I
Mhm.
don't want to keep this pattern going.
And I love
So,
that you share this because I go through something similar when I get mad because I am the more reactive one in the relationship. And I always challenge myself to get back to what I call equilibrium or harmony
mm-hmm.
in the relationship because this is not fun like at all
Yeah,
when you're in the middle of an argument or not even maybe it's not an argument and it's just tense like you said. It's not fun. I'm
mm-mm.
rigid, I'm moody, I'm snappy. Like, I don't want to be this person. I would much rather
Exactly.
be enjoying my time with my spouse. And so I love that you shared that you, first try and breathe it out, see if it's something simple to get over. And if it's not, the simple shift of going from victim mentality of how could he do this to me? Why didn't he think about me? Why does, fill in the blank with the narrative that you are playing in your head just to, I wonder what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Just assuming that your partner has the best intent, that they're not an asshole that you married. I mean, I hope not, right? Because
I
if they
hope not
were,
too.
why
Yeah.
are you married to them? And just like, okay, well, if I know beyond this moment, because we could really like
Mm-hmm.
catastrophize things, that he is a good man,
Yeah.
then I wonder what led to this decision that he made or this action that he took, or maybe he forgot. Maybe he's preoccupied. I wonder why. And why is this affecting me so much? It's the shift in questions that
Mm-hmm.
really helps you move through all that narrative that gets stuck in your head that you don't ever allow out. And so then it becomes like this story that festers in your mind and even starts to become a part of your relationship, but he has zero idea that that's
Yeah.
happening inside you. It's wild what our brains can do.
Oh, oh, yes. And it's, oh, gosh, it's so true because it ebbs and flows. Like I would like to think in my world that I'm never guilty of
Me
anything.
too. I do no wrong. I am
I
perfect.
know. It's like, no, like it's always his fault. What are you talking about?
That would be the easiest for sure.
In my world. Yeah, it would be so easy. And then sometimes when I step back, it's like, oh gosh, that really did come from me. So it's being able to step back and realize, hey, I have an equal role in this relationship. And if he's reacting in some kind of way, I need to look at how have I been that might be causing him. Just like the vice versa.
Co-creating is the
Yeah,
term I
we're
like to use. How
co-creating.
did I
Yeah.
co-create this situation?
Yeah. So and it makes, it's just a simple shift in thinking. It's like you said, I think I love Tony Robbins, how he says this. It's the difference between good and great is a lot, but the difference between great and outstanding is a 2 millimeter shift. And we think it's this huge mountain, and it's not. It's literally just tweaking something just a little
Mhm.
bit. So from going to, I'm seething and I can't believe, and he's wronged me, to I'm seething and I can't believe, and oh, what do I need to be looking at here? Just
Yep.
one different question. You can still have the seething anger for a minute if you need
Oh
to,
yeah.
right? But it's so amazing how that will wipe it out. Half the time, if I just ask that question to myself, it's just like, look, oh, like it just kills that anger right off the bat. And now I'm in curiosity. And curiosity is a productive place to be because
Yes.
now it can lead me to better outcomes than if I just sit there in my anger. So
Yeah.
kind of going back to the intimacy, for example, Andrew is cute. He's like, you're so hot. I love you. You're so beautiful. I mean, after all this time, I just want you. Don't you love hearing that? And I'm like, well, yeah, it's cool. But like for him, he's kind of like this teenager that just hit puberty and has a free pass. And like, if he could, he'd be groping me all the time, doing all the moves that you're just like, oh my gosh, stop. And for him, it's not a thing of he's making me into a sexual object. And it's more just like he loves to be with me, and that's pretty cool. How nice is that he still loves to be with me. And that's a form of connection for men, by the way. It's as
Physical.
many of you would like to
Mm-hmm.
say that's just them being pervy and using me. No, it's actually a form of connecting for them. Versus for us as women, our form of connecting is presence. Like, we're going to be communicating eye to eye. Like, I have your full attention. You're not doing something and I'm talking at you. It's like, no, we're sitting down and you are giving me full on presence. If I don't have that, then guess what? All that touching is going to lead you nowhere. And also, this is something that is really good to communicate to your spouses, to your men, is like Andrew would come up and he'd be grabbing me, grab my boob and squeeze it, grab my butt, just like wherever it is and just grab it. He's like, hey, he thinks he's being all manly. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, if you grab my boob one more time and squeeze it, I'm going to smack you,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I had to let him know. I said, okay, yes, I love that you still want to be passionate with me and all this stuff. My libido is not quite where yours is, and it doesn't turn on the way that yours does. So you doing all this stuff doesn't open me up, it shuts me down. So what I need from you is I need presence. I need you to give me like 10 minutes where it is just uninterrupted you and me time. And it doesn't have to be me talking the whole time. It's just that we are in communication. And that's all we're focused on. That is going to be like door opening number 1. Okay. The next thing is, for every sexual grope that you feel like you need to do, you better touch me 3 times that has nothing to do with sex. It
Yes.
needs to be embraced. It needs to be loving. It needs to be kind. And that's going to swing the door even further open, right? And if you realize that that's kind of the key to unlocking my door, I think you'd probably want to do that more, because it's going to be a win for you if you can do that.
Yes.
Otherwise, if I'm not getting that connection and you're just coming by and grabbing my butt, I'm just going to be like, mm-mm, not going to happen.
Mhm.
Like, I'm tying the string really tight tonight so you can't get these things off, right?
And good for you for being aware of
Yeah.
what you need to feel
Yeah.
receptive to be intimate, because a lot of women don't know that. And
Yeah.
instead, they do end up just smacking their partner on the hand or feeling objectified, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing that it's men's way of connecting, because
Yeah.
men tend to be um, prioritizing more physical connection because that's how they feel connected, whereas
Yeah.
we feel more connected with emotional intimacy. And so it does seem like it's competing, but they go hand in hand. The more physical connection they have, the more open they are to being emotionally intimate with us, and we're vice versa. The more emotional intimacy we receive, the more we're receptive to being engaged in physical intimacy, right? And so the
Mm-hmm.
fact that you're like, hey, I love that you're doing this and that you still want me. So you're acknowledging what he's doing. And then
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, but if you want me to be more receptive, so you're understanding his goal, like what he
Yeah.
desires, then these are the things that I need. So you're basically handing him the manual saying, I want
Yes.
to also want you. And this is the path to doing that. Because right now
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this, because sometimes I do feel like when it's only that I feel like I'm being objectified, even though he's my husband. I know he's not like
Yeah.
that. It does feel like that when there isn't that other kind of physical affection that is not related to it ending up with sex, right?
Exactly.
Or when we're not connecting on an emotional level where we know how we're each doing, checking in with each other, or me just going off talking about all the things that I'm thinking about and taking up space and whatever, and just offloading. And it makes a huge difference when we do have that opportunity. And it's kind of like your mind is so full that when you try and force sex and you
Mm-hmm.
haven't had
Oh,
that time to offload, that's all you're thinking about. You can't even be present in the moment. And so, in that sense, we both have something in common, that we both want each other's presence. It's just from a different approach.
yeah. Exactly. Because I don't want to be the cold fish in the relationship, right?
No.
When I think of myself, I would like to think that I'm a passionate woman. I would like to think that I keep romance and flames alive in my marriage. I mean, I don't want to be that couple that people look at and they're like, oh yeah, they've been married for years. And to a certain degree, yeah, we got that we're busy with the kids outside. You're going to see us probably more handling the kids and all that jazz. But at the same time, like when we're at home and we don't have all of the stuff going on at once, it's like, oh, hey. And we're always touching each other and we sit on the couch and we make sure, that we snuggle and that's who I want to be. So if I want to be that, I have to participate in it. And I have to clue him in on how to do that because, going back to the beginning of this episode, we think differently. Our tactics are different. So I need to set him up for success. If I want him to be my knight in shining armor, I need to tell him what that recipe looks like for me. And vice versa for him. If he wants me to be that hot lover that, just adores and respects him, he needs to give me the recipe because otherwise we just get busy. We're busy. And it's not that anyone meant to fall into that pattern. It's just that life throws a ton of crap your way and you just get stuck in mode. And especially as moms, we just take on so much. And a lot of it is stuff we don't even need to take on, but we're just so used to taking it. So it's like, oh, okay, I got it. And at the end of the day, we're just like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
done. And you coming on to me is not my form of thinking this is going to be relaxing. I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah. And then
you
on
know?
the other end, you would never want to say, I have a sexless marriage, because then you worry
Yeah.
about other things, right? You worry, oh,
Yeah.
is he going to leave me? Is he going to have an affair? What's
Is there
going
someone
on?
else out there providing that for him?
Right.
Yeah.
And so if you do find yourself not desiring that, then it's up to you to figure out why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you not wanting to connect? Is there something that you can do for yourself? Is it something that you need to communicate with your spouse that he might not know about? Do you need to work with someone to help you to work through it? Because sex is a very important part of the relationship. It's not the
Yep.
only part, but it is a very important part, and it's a big sign of the health of your marriage. Because if you don't want to physically open up, like literally, this is the most vulnerable thing you can do as a woman, is to physically open up
Yeah.
and let
Yeah.
someone enter, right? If you're not there and you are resisting, there is something deeper there that needs to be explored.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so true. And that was when it took me a lot of figuring to do, and a lot of it went back to also the negativity that
Oh
he was
yeah.
bringing home from work, because it was literally like everything he would say, it was like, you may as well be cutting me, because negativity to me is like a knife. It's like
Yep.
I don't thrive off of it at all. I mean, most people don't, but some people, they really like to just get into that and keep rolling and they don't realize it. And it took me a while to figure out, like, why am I so repelled by him right now? Like, I want to have nothing to do. And finally, one day I was like, because everything you say is so negative. It's like, I can't be near you. And when I finally got it and I was able to express that to him, he was more than happy to say, I will figure out a way to get it out elsewhere. Like I'll play heavy metal music on the way home or whatever it is. I think now he listens to sermons on the way home and it just changes his mindset. And so that way he could get rid of work Andrew. He has his transition time and he can come home and now he can be super awesome husband to Andrew. And we can connect and I feel safe around him again. And now it's like, oh, now I want to connect with you. And I know that, like if he's already kind of told me on the phone, because we talk to each other during the day on the phone, and I already know it's a bad day. It's like, okay, don't ask him how did it go, because then he's going to need to dump on that. Unless I'm ready
Yes.
for that, don't ask that question. Ask different questions.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah,
I love that you were able to really communicate with him without saying, hey, like,
yeah,
you're kind of a drain to be
yeah.
around. I mean,
Okay,
even though
listen,
that
Debbie
was
Downer.
true, right? Even though it's true,
Yeah,
it was really good that you were able to communicate with him exactly how it was impacting you, because I'm sure that he didn't even think that that was happening. He was just being honest with you about his day,
yeah,
right? And that was
yeah.
his form of venting, but it was
Mm-hmm.
having a very negative impact on you that sabotaged him, really.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Which makes him even more negative.
Yeah, yeah. So I love this. Yes, men and women are different, but we also have a lot of common things.
Yeah.
We also have things in common, but it is so important, again, to just highlight how good it is when you are aware of yourself and when you are attuned to your partner. How are they? How are we? And then trying to figure out, okay, how can we work together? Because a lot of
Hmm.
times marriages go wrong because we are looking at our partners and expecting them to be a hairy version of us, right?
Yes.
Like, why aren't they noticing the things that we are noticing? Well, back to your example of hunters and gatherers, the females were gatherers. We were picking berries and
Yep.
scanning and listening out for danger so we can run because we are communal, right? Whereas men, it's
Yes.
like, okay, we're gonna go hunt for meat and fish and whatever. It's very focused, which I am jealous of sometimes because,
I
like,
know.
I don't know if this is true for your husband, but as soon as my husband just stays still, doesn't matter if he's on the floor, in a chair, in a bed, he can fall asleep just like that. He just has to decide that he's going to sleep. And I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
must be nice.
That's why actually we're kind of the opposite. If it's bedtime,
Really?
as soon as yeah, like if I'm, well, so this is a running joke. So we always go to bed together, and he was like, we need to go to bed earlier. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, we do get up early. We get up around 5:30. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And I realized he did it because as soon as we hit the bed, my mouth is just like for probably a good 15 or 20 minutes. Like it's just a safe space where I just start downloading on him.
Yeah.
And so he realized, he's like, I'm not getting enough sleep.
We're
So
not starting this bedtime process
yeah,
early enough.
let's just move this conversation a little bit. And then also, we kind of changed it to where now when he comes home from work, we have like a 10-minute check-in with each other. And that
Love
also
it.
helps alleviate some of that nighttime talk because
Yes.
I've had the chance during the day where we really got to connect. And I have to say this, I've got to give him so many props because I know I've mentioned some of the things where you're like, oh, I can relate to my husband's just like that. And this guy, man, he is so willing to work together because he wants what I want. He wants us to have this
Mhm.
beautiful, amazing, passionate relationship. He wants me, like, oh my God, literally, he's like, my goal in life is to make you happy. If you are happy, I don't care if I have to be miserable. I will do what it takes because you are what makes me happy. And, like, oh
Mhm.
my God, just he's still saying that to me. I'm
Yep.
like tears to my eyes. So it's amazing when you are able to bring out the best in people, how they want to be the best for each other. And he is that dead on. And we fail all the time. And we know, okay, that doesn't mean we stop. It means we get back up and dust ourselves off and keep going forward. So
I
yeah.
love it. Well, they say fail fast, fail forward. So
Yes.
that's really how your marriage can grow and just throughout life is figure out what went on and then you just grow from there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
thank you so much for being a part of this show. I have loved getting to talk about this with you because I know that there aren't that many people out there talking about the differences
Hmm.
of men and women in this way, right? It's always about criticism, but really there is a benefit to us having different kinds of focus. That's how stuff gets done, right? It's if we were the
Yes.
same, that would be very difficult. And I love how you shared your own personal experience with how you turned your marriage around with the transition of motherhood and getting back to having a hot and steamy marriage because I really think like that's what we all want. We don't want to say that our marriage became stale. No one gets
Yeah.
married agreeing that once the kids come that we're just going to be co-parenting roommates, right? that's
Yeah.
that's not fun.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you, but before I let you go, can you share with us who you love to work with and where people can find you?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for asking. So I love moms, you've got my heart. I mean, obviously I'm a mom. And like I said at the beginning of that story, just knowing what it's like to feel overwhelmed, to feel like you've lost that cool chick you used to be. It's like, where did I go? I've just become this almost machine that just takes on life. And we forget to dream and we forget that it's okay to have those desires come out loud and live outside of our bodies. And I kind of joke around like, mom may be the name you hear the most. It's not the only name that matters. So I live for helping moms rediscover who they are so that they're amazing moms and beyond. And they just embrace life and know that they're living out loud. And you can find me. I actually have a podcast as well, Fun Rich Mom, because if you haven't seen, hopefully you've seen, I like to have fun. So it's all about creating fun, having that richness in life, and obviously being mom. So Fun Rich Mom podcast. And you can find me on Instagram at Mitch Fun Rich Mom, and on Facebook, Fun Rich Mom group as well. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so before I let you go, I love to ask my guests a question so listeners can get to know you better. Are you ready?
I'm so excited. Yes.
Okay, so let's see. I have
Purple.
been purple. Actually, is that your favorite color? Because that's
It's my favorite color. It is.
Yay! Oh, and by the way, listeners, I found out yesterday that Mitch's birth name is also Michelle with 2 L's. So
With 2
just another
Ls,
thing
yes.
that we have in common.
Yes.
Okay, so that wasn't the question.
I know.
My question is, what is your favorite trashy TV show?
I'm looking for one right now, but a couple that we just finished up with this last year were Suits. Just finished that. Super fun.
Good.
And then The Last Kingdom. The Last Kingdom. It's basically it's a Viking. It's not all Viking, but it's like this. Oh. He's fun to watch, but I think it's called The Last Kingdom, and yeah, so it's got a little historical stuff, but it's just got a lot of fun stuff and some juicy things in there. So those are probably
kind of like Game of the Thrones, but like Viking period.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe not. Well, yeah, I guess a little bit more Viking period.
Okay.
It was kind of the beginning of how Great Britain got formed, and this guy who was British but ended up getting taken by Vikings when he was young, so raised as a Viking, and then kind of straddles both worlds. And his name is Uhtred, son of Uhtred. He has the sword of Uhtred. There's so much fun to it, and it's a good one. I like it.
I'll have to go check that out.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. And thank you, listeners, for making it all the way to the end. I hope that you got a lot out of this conversation with Mitch and that you go follow her, go check out her podcast. And I'm actually going to be one of the guests on her show. So I'm super excited for you to check that one out. And if you loved this show, please reach out and let us know what you resonated with most. And if you know someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, share this. And of course, if you love the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. I would be forever grateful. All right, I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye. That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.